Right, I thought I'd sort of show those who don't already know how to do it how to make a good efficient fire. So first you get two chunks of wood like that, you know, probably about sort of 10 centimetres, 4 inches or so high. Not that you come to fire making with a tape measure or anything, but just as a general rule of thumb or indication. And next you get some sheets of newspaper. I use 4 sheets of newspaper, and you just lightly crumple it up into a ball, not too tightly, just loosely crumpled. So 4 of these. Thus, in between our mainstays, our foundation blocks, you might want to call them. Alright, so far so good. Now, these things, commonly known as sticks, found underneath trees. When you go collecting them, don't collect them all from under the same tree, because that robs the tree of their compost, so spread it round a bit. Now you might notice typical sort of twig here, sorry, typical stick here, thicker here, gradually getting thinner and thinner until right at the end are the twigs that carry the leaves. Right, the first thing you'll do is to snap off all these really fine ones, all the fine little twigs at the end, and they're going to form your first layer that you put down like that, parallel, all the little fine twigs parallel with your mainstays, just lightly resting on top of the paper, like so. And just to speed it up a little bit so that it's not infinitely tedious, I've already done this with a few more of them, so there you go, a nice little bed of your first layer. Right, from then you go into the slightly thicker ones. You can get terribly pedantic about this, you know, there are different sizes, graduations. I usually go for about 3 general sizes. Probably something to do with the Fibonacci series or something like that. We don't really have to get too technical. The simple process of fire making, setting a fire. So the next layer we'll put across, in other words at right angles to the first layer. So we'll lay, you know, reasonably generous sort of portion of those, and then with your next size up at right angles to that, so they're in roughly the same sort of orientation as your first layer. Okay, from there, okay, we can go to, you know, some relatively thick ones now. So let me spread this across, and you're creating a nice little sort of structure here. And then on top of that, you might want to put a bit of chopped kindling that you've chopped for the process. Now this particular stuff is from the campsite where I'm camped, and the wood's sort of fairly green, but it'll burn all right once you've got a flame underneath it. And so what you're doing is to gradually building up. You don't jump a level of thickness too suddenly, but you might notice that now we're starting to get some reasonably thick fellows, and you can continue like that. Okay, so that's your basic sort of structure, and you should find that when you set fire to that, it'll catch up and burn quite quickly. The sticks, as they burn, will form red hot embers and drop in between your two foundation blocks, and they will set the two foundation blocks on fire. So, and the whole thing creates a nice sort of resonant fire cavity. Little trick I learnt only yesterday, actually, trying to get your hand in underneath there can be a bit tricky. So if you get a little bit of paper and drop it in somewhere so that it actually ends up making contact with the newspaper, that would be a great help. A little bit more newspaper for that purpose at this end, and that was only the face of Tony Abbott on that bit, so no great loss there. So if you poke that in there, hopefully that'll set fire to the newspaper at that end, and fairly soon you should start to see a nice sort of blaze. Now, this isn't, of course, the only way to make a fire, but in my opinion, it's the most efficient way. There's a sort of typical, and of course it'll collapse at some stage. Some people prefer the sort of pyramid structure that's so beloved of the hippies. But personally, I don't think that's really as efficient as doing it this way. Now, one of the important things is to, it's going to collapse in a minute, when you're building a structure like this, and subsequently as you build it up, is to leave enough gaps between, oops, there she goes. That's all right, the whole thing's collapsed, so you just, you know, just kind of alter, you know, just resurrect it a little bit where appropriate, and I think you'll find it'll still go all right. Yeah, as I was saying, when you are building up a structure and when you're putting on subsequent layers of wood, don't put the pieces too close together. It's very crucial for a good fire that you get a good airflow between the pieces. So there we go, and from there on you can you know, you can start to gradually put up your bigger pieces, and and very quickly you'll get red hot coals in the centre, and the sides of the two mainstays catch fire, and you've created a container for your red hot coals, a sort of a resonant cavity, if you like. If the physicists will excuse me from absconding with that sort of terminology. There you have it. So at this point in time, I might just go and get the kettle. Go and get me a little kettle, which is a gift from a friend and a perfect size. You know, for a one-man cup of tea or coffee. You can just swing that hot plate over there, and within a very short space of time that kettle will be happily boiling away. And there she goes. So there you have it. That's how to make a fire simply, easily, quickly, and it'll be an extremely efficient fire if you just keep on adding pieces in roughly that structure, and you'll end up with a big body of red hot coals, and from then on it's Bob's your uncle. It wasn't my uncle, but I'm sure Bob was somebody's uncle. Anyway, there you have it. It's probably time I stopped rabbiting on, and we'll just leave it running for a moment so that you can see the, just get a glimpse of the flames sort of merrily dancing in there. It's about 5:30 or thereabouts, and I'd normally leave it a bit later to light the fire, but it's such an overcast, rainy sort of a day that I wanted to have sufficient light to be able to demonstrate this process. So there you have it. Okay, good luck with your fire making.